Hi everybody, welcome to today's webinar. My name is McKay Allen. I'm the Inbound Marketing Manager at Log My Calls, and we're excited you're here today. We've got a fantastic presentation, and we're thrilled you've joined us. First, before we jump right into the presentation and introduce our presenter, I want to provide a little bit of context for our webinar series and provide some announcements as well. First, we are Log My Calls. We launched this webinar series several months ago. And we're a call tracking and call analytics provider. So we tell marketers which ads, campaigns, and keywords are generating phone calls and then which are not. And that's important because it allows you to track ROI more effectively. The other thing that people often ask is, why the heck do you do these webinars? We have literally like 2 marketing webinars a week where we invite experts from across the country to talk about marketing topics. Today it's SEO in 2014 with Chad at Link Media 360. And people say, why do you do these webinars? Well, our audience is marketers, and so we thought, what better way to A, attract an audience, frankly, but B, to provide value for our audience and to provide really useful content from some of the best marketing minds in the world. And so we've had people from Unbound, Yext, Tim Ash from Conversion Conference and Site Tuners, and other notable experts present in our webinar series. And so we're glad you've joined us today. Today's webinar, of course, is Top 7 Tips to Localize Your SEO in 2014, presented by Chad Lucky, the managing partner at Link Media 360. They're an agency in Ohio, outside of Cleveland, that deals with businesses across the country. And they're certainly experts in this field. Chad has worked with Fortune 500 companies, small businesses as well, and we're excited that he's agreed to join us today. Before we turn it over to Chad, though, 2 more quick announcements. First, the webinar is being recorded, and we'll make that recording available to you via email tomorrow morning, so watch for that. And then second, we encourage you to ask questions throughout the webinar. So please type those questions into the little question bar on your GoToWebinar screen there, and we will address those to Chad. We'll read those to him at the conclusion of his presentation. And then finally, note that we do have a webinar also tomorrow. This one is directly about one of our new products called Conversation Analytics. It's the product for which we won the Amazon Web Services Global Startup Challenge. 2,500 companies applied. We won because of Conversation Analytics. So it's a chance for you to learn about this product. And then next week we have a webinar about influencer relations. So you can go to logmycalls.com/webinar and sign up for those. So with that, I want to turn it over to Chad. I'll give him control of the screen. He can further introduce Link Media 360 and himself. And Chad, we're really excited you've agreed to join us today. Thanks for taking the time, and we're excited for your presentation.
Thank you very much for having me. Hopefully everyone can see my screen okay. If not,
yeah, it looks great. Looks great.
Just to jump into the presentation, one thing that I wanted to cover today that our team talked about was, SEO as it relates to local businesses. The brief introduction that McKay gave me, nothing really to stand out here, besides the fact that we are in Cleveland, so it is pretty rainy today. And I'm an avid golfer, so I'm looking forward to the warmer weather so I can get out on the course. So kind of to go straight into the presentation, the first couple slides, I just wanted to give a high-level overview of kind of the search marketing landscape. And I pulled a few slides from some of the Google studies and some things I want to talk about. So this first slide that we're viewing is called the 0 moment of truth. And it really just speaks to consumer behavior. Being visible the moment that a consumer takes action is really critical to your business. The graphic at the bottom of this slide, the first bullet point would be a stimulus. So this could be, I'm walking down the street, I pass a billboard on a building that has, say, a McDonald's ad about a breakfast sandwich. The stimulus was that source of advertisement, or me getting hungry. And then the 0 moment of truth is me going to a mobile device, asking a friend. It could be a print ad. It could be a desktop experience. But really that 0 moment of truth is when you want to be present. So if your business is available to consumers wherever they go to in order to find your business, then you're going to have a positive response from that. The second 2 bullet points really talk about the experience that the customer has. So the first moment of truth is when they would experience the product for the first time, maybe on the shelf, or the second moment of truth would be, kind of where a consumer would have a response to the product. So could be a positive review or a negative review. This next slide is a really high-level slide about how organic search works. I encourage all of you to Google how search works. They have a really cool interactive infographic that kind of lays this format out in an easier way to understand. But essentially, the Internet's made up of 30 trillion web pages. Search engines have crawlers and robots that crawl all these pages. They put them into a large index. They sort and store them. And the next step is a user performs a search query. So I may be looking for banks in Pittsburgh. Google fires up their algorithm. They're looking for relevancy. They're looking for high-quality web pages that are relevant to that user's search query. Once they find, a large foundation of relevant pages, the next step is actually ranking those websites. And one way they rank those websites is through the credibility or the authority that the web page has. And then hopefully your website is one of the few that appear on the first page. The anatomy of a search engine results page. So this slide pretty much just lays out overview picture of what the search engine results page looks like as we refer to Google. Bing and Yahoo look pretty similar. They tend to copy most of the things that Google implement first. A few months later, you'll probably see it come to a Bing search engine. Today, what we're really going to be covering is related to the organic listings and the local listings. This next slide here is the holistic pyramid. You've probably seen this pyramid in several different formats across the internet. The first person to bring up a holistic SEO pyramid was SEO Moz. It was a little more technical than this. I think it included, one more layer. But really, our strategy at Link Media 360 can really be summed up within this pyramid. Search engine optimization, starts with a strong technical foundation. You then have your content or your on-site SEO, and then you have your off-site SEO or the credibility. One thing that we are starting to see is social media being pulled into the top part of the triangle. So, really helping drive forward the content and off-site promotion of your website. The best way that I can describe how search engine optimization works and why it is so strong to have a strong technical foundation is very similar to, maybe if you've ever experienced or seen a house being built. The first couple of months, it's a slow-moving process. You might be driving by the job site and, wondering, hey, are the workers working on my website? Well, similar to SEO, it takes a few months for things to get started. There might be some technical fixes that you have to address before you can actually start working on some of the more advanced tactics that really help to drive results. So the 7 tips that we want to talk about today are schema markup, optimized location pages, claiming your local online listings, on-site optimization and off-site optimization as it refers to local SEO, social and content marketing, and then mobile. All of these bullet points are going to be more geared towards local SEO. We consider local SEO a little different than, say, national-based search term. So the first is, what is schema markup? Schema markup is essentially, it was a collaboration started in 2010 between all of the largest search engines, so Yahoo, Bing, and Google. They collaborated on a way to help search engines find important information quicker. Essentially, it's just a set of HTML tags that webmasters can use to mark up their pages in a way that's recognized by these major search engines. Schema markup allows search engines to understand the information on a web page faster, provide richer search results. So they're able to pull in rich media into the search engine results page, and it just makes it easier for Google and search engines to display relevant information to the user quicker. Schema.org is the website where you can go and find the schema or HTML tags that are most relevant to your business. The screenshot on this slide just shows you an example for a bank or a credit union. And then this is a location page for one of our clients who was gladly allowed us to use them as an example. They're in the self-storage space. But this location page on their website, everything that is highlighted in a red box has a piece of code that's on the back end of the website that lets search engines know, hey, this is the name of the facility, this is the address, this is the phone number, the product, the price, etc. So it really allows search engines to find this information as quick as possible. Really, as SEOs or SEO specialists, our job is to serve the search engines the information they want as quick as possible, as well as making sure that the user has a good experience. And this is just one of those things that it kind of surprises me how many websites currently are not using schema markup. It really has been around for a while, and we see an increase and positive results for all of the clients that we currently have using schema markup. The next thing that I want to talk about is creating optimized location pages. Most companies who have over 20, 30, 40, 50, say even 200 locations, they stray away from using individual location pages due to the fact that they usually have limited resources. Where we come in is we really encourage companies to go ahead and create individual pages. The reason a company may not want to is because you do need more resources to manage those pages, because you now have 50 more pages than you used to have. But from a search experience, Google as well as the user, if they're searching for a service in, say, Cleveland, Ohio, the experience they're going to have landing on the location page that is specifically for Cleveland is a better experience than if they would land on your homepage. If I'm looking for a bank in Cleveland, Ohio, and I land on a homepage of a bank that has over 200 locations, I now have to click through the website in order to find the information that I was looking for. It may have been just an address or a phone number for that specific location. We encourage all location pages to have the name, address, a local phone number. Preferably, avoid using your 1-800 number unless you have to include it on there. Business hours, any services that are specific to that location. This should help you create unique content for each page so you aren't just duplicating the same description across every single page. And then the last is directions. So most people include a Google map on their location pages, and I think that's a great feature to have. But we also encourage you to actually physically write out the directions. So it could be, from the east, from the west, etc., and include important landmarks that could be relevant to the user. We've had some good results including this on location pages. So again, to kind of show you some examples of some of the points we highlighted, the slide here, the example of a location page, basically this one location page should contain all the information that a user who is searching for a local-based keyword would have. If I'm looking for self-storage in Edgewater, Maryland, this page should give me everything I need. It includes the name, address, phone number. It includes the features, some photos and videos, promotions, as well as a driving directions tab. Next is a super important strategy that we actively manage for a ton of clients, and that is just managing your local online listings. Having the correct information for your business is vital for being found in search engines. So just like on the web page that you have or the location page you have on your own website, you want to have the exact same name, address, phone number on the thousands of local directories that are on the internet. This could be very hard to manage if you were trying to manually update all the directories that are across the internet. There's hundreds of these directories. So one way to do so is through different services. Just yesterday, SEO Moz introduced what they consider Moz Local. It is a platform where you're able to submit your name, address, phone number for I think it's approximately $49 a location, and they'll syndicate this information across all the directories on the internet, so you have that consistent name, address, phone number. If you aren't actively managing your local online listings, a lot of these companies scrape the internet for these the NAP, the name, address, phone number. So if you aren't actively managing it, it could become outdated. Phone number could change. Maybe you've changed your address. So it is important to make sure you are managing these directories. The next is on-site optimization. Again, most of these tactics could work if you were a national company, but we're really trying to show you some examples from a local level. So to keep it consistent, we're still going to be talking about this self-storage client that we currently work with. Website navigation should be easy to use. Keep URLs simple and readable. Every page on a website should be able to reach within 4 clicks from the home page. And then the examples at the bottom just show you the directories or folders that we name for this particular client. So it's easystorage.com/storage units. And then if you want to drill down farther, it's storage unit/Maryland. And then the actual location page lives on storage units, Maryland, Charles Village. So when Google or a user sees this URL, they clearly know that this page is about storage units. They're in Maryland, and it's in the city of Charles Village. The next is related to on-site optimization, meta titles, meta description, your header tags, the content on your website, and then directions. Again, I've already mentioned this previously, but the screenshots give you an idea of what those look like. So for this particular client, we filled out the directions on the location page. We included from the north, we included from Johns Hopkins University. Again, the reason it's important to include those landmarks is when Google is crawling this website and they see the term Johns Hopkins University, they really tie that down to a specific location. All the header tags include information about the location. So Charles Village, the H2 is Charles Village Self-Storage. The meta description, it includes, again, location information within the meta description. And then the title as well is self-storage units in Charles Village. So we aren't necessarily stuffing these variables with keywords. We're really just making it super clear to the user and search engines what this page is about. I'm not encouraging you just to put keywords into these variables and not looking at the actual usability. If you go back to the location page that we showed previously, it does have a very clean look, and you know that that page is exactly about a specific location. The biggest takeaway for your on-site optimization is, again, making sure you're including the location name. It could also be the zip code as well in these variables. Off-site optimization. So when we're talking about off-site optimization, we're essentially talking about the term backlinks or links. There's been a lot of buzz over the past year or two about, are links going away as Google starts to fight web spam. They aren't sure, how they're using these to rank websites in the future. A couple weeks ago, Matt Cutts, the head of spam at Google, released a new webmasters video, which I encourage you all to check out his YouTube channel. It's really, really engaging and informative. Someone asked the question, did Google have a version of the search engine that did not use links to judge authority or credibility of a website when they rank websites? And Matt Cutts' response was, well, we do have a version of the website that, of course, is not open to the public, but to their surprise, it didn't look very good at all. Links are still the ultimate and best way to measure the authority of a website. So in our opinion, as social starts to tie into some of these ranking algorithms, links still are extremely important. And as it relates to local SEO, you don't need to have thousands of links pointing back to your website. You just need a handful of really high-quality links. High-quality links from a local SEO standpoint tend to be related to local business directories, your Chamber of Commerce, local universities, local organizations, and local news sources. The one thing that we do immediately is we really look for any universities that have directories. So the big screenshot on the right is the Maryland Institute of College of Art. This particular website had an actual storage section on their website so they could show students, local storage companies in the area. So we were able to simply contact them and let them know about our business and how listing our information on their website would be relevant to their audience. And we were able to obtain 2 links that were targeting 2 locations that were in that area. And that's super valuable being on a .edu domain name. The other 2 screenshots just show you 2 other associations that are relevant to the Charles Village area where we were able to obtain links and include our business information. These local links are super relevant, they're user-friendly, and Google loves them. Next is moving into content. So, these next few slides really talk about just, Google has always been super fond about content, and so are consumers. We're all consumers of content. Whether it's digitally, whether it's print, we all consume content. And our expectations are set by the brands that we interact, or our competitors. So when we're looking at one of our clients' websites, we often look at what our competitors are doing. And if your digital experience does not measure up, it's going to hurt your brand and your bottom line. One thing that we know for sure is digitally, consumers are less tolerant. If they have a bad experience, they're going to leave your website right away. So we highly recommend creating content that kind of falls into these 4 buckets. So content that educates or solves a problem, content that promotes action, content that builds relationships, and or content that expands reach. So to give you an example about a piece of content that could educate or solve a problem, could be if you have a common question that comes up from your customers, hey, how do I fix X? That could be a great blog post to write. If you have common problems that keep coming up in your business, writing a blog post or an FAQ section on your website is a great way to answer those questions because users tend to go to a website before they even pick up the phone. So that's just one example. From a local standpoint, one thing that we like to do is we write a lot of content around local events. So for a lot of our clients, when we write blog posts, we do write really engaging blog posts that are fun, your typical tips or facts, but we also include relevant events that are around the location or business that we're promoting. That we tend to get positive feedback from writing about these events, and Google, again, picks up this local information and ties it back to your domain name. The next is adding social sharing buttons to your website. Most businesses and websites already do have these features. The whole idea is just, make it as easy as possible for users to share your content. It's one less step the user has to take, and you're eliminating that friction that could cause them to not share your article. The next piece is a little more advanced, and it relates more to premium content. So this is an example of an infographic we just completed. This is just the top half of it, but I encourage all of you to check it out. It's really, really engaging. But the whole point around infographics is really to give a reader who is visual a piece of content that they can quickly go through. It's really engaging, and users tend to share these pieces over, say, a traditional white paper or PDF. For this particular client, being that it's a self-storage company, we try to find topics that are somewhat related to the business, but also super engaging. So we can write about self-storage all day, but not everyone wants to read content about self-storage. So for this particular company, we created the Ultimate Spring Cleaning Guide. So we created a piece of content that was somewhat relevant to the business, but ultimately it drove links back to that client's website. Next is mobile. As everyone knows, mobile devices and mobile site traffic has been increasing year over year, dramatically faster than what even Google thought it would. There's over 5 billion mobile devices in the world right now compared to just 2 billion PCs. So mobile usage is at some point going to surpass desktop usage, and it's going to be sooner than later. The biggest takeaway here, and what I wanted to bring up, was if your business is not serving your mobile users, then you could be missing out on customers or potential customers. One of the things that I've noticed, and this may be something that is just unique to my observation, but I think others in the industry would agree with me, is Google has started to make a lot of changes that seem to really address usability from a mobile standpoint. They're displaying information in the search engine results page that appears in blocks or cards. So this is the knowledge graph on the right-hand side. They're introducing carousel-type sliders that could easily be used to swipe on your mobile phone with a thumb. They're creating these new features that are being tied into the search engine results page that could easily be rendered in a mobile version of Google. To show you an example of some of these cards or carousels, this slide here shows you the carousel for local restaurants, or for this particular example was coffee shop in Cleveland, Ohio. This particular carousel could easily be rendered in a mobile version of Google, and then the local map at the bottom is in a card format. Cards or blocks of content tend to render much better in a mobile environment. So just want to point out that, I think mobile is extremely important to a local search engine optimization program. And then really just kind of key takeaways. I know I've sped through a lot of these slides, and hopefully we have some more specific questions so I can address some of those. But instead of just highlighting everything we talked about, I think, one of the most important things that you can do for your local business that has multiple locations is create specific landing pages that have schema markup. Like I said, most websites still aren't using schema, and it really is a pretty simple fix that anyone with a little bit of HTML knowledge should be able to implement. The next is manage your local listings. It's a fairly low-cost solution. You see results much faster than search engine optimization as a standalone, which may take 6 months to a year, and it's definitely going to help your business. The next is make sure that you do have a consistent name, address, phone number on your website, as well as what you submit to a syndication source for your local listings. Perform basic on-site optimization. We showed you the slide that showed H1, meta titles, meta description. Have a unique meta title and meta description for every page. That's a good head start. Make sure they're related to that specific location. And then last, start thinking about being mobile. Do you currently have a mobile website? And then, are you going to have a responsive website? Maybe you're going into a new website redesign. Ask your developers if they have a plan for the mobile version of the website. I think it's extremely important and will allow your website to be readily available to users who are searching on a mobile device. So that's basically all I had in kind of the webinar in the beginning, but I think we're ready to open this up to some questions, and hopefully some of you have some specific questions for us.
That's great. Yeah, we have some great questions coming in, and thank you all for I forgot to mention verbally at the start to use the hashtag LogMyCallsWebinar during today's webinar, but I chatted that out. So please use that hashtag LogMyCallsWebinar as we discuss in the Q&A section here. So we'll take about 15 minutes worth of questions, Chad, if that's okay with you, and we've already got some coming in. So I'll just read some of these to you, and you can address them. I may hop in too if I feel like addressing it as well. Does that work, Chad?
Yeah, that works great.
Awesome. So good stuff, by the way, in the presentation. We were just commenting in our offices here that your presentation is one of the best we've had in terms of providing specific direction. So that's great. All right, so let's start with Gil's question. He said, what do you do if you have one central location but you service nationally? Should you not have multiple locations? How should you address that? So you're a national business. You have one location, wherever it might be, but you have a national footprint or a national brand. How do you address that in terms of SEO? Is it wise to have location pages in that case, or how should you deal with it?
I think, our recommendation, and we do have clients that serve from a national perspective, is I think it's okay to have location pages. I don't think that they're specifically going to rank higher than, say, a local business that has a brick-or-mortar location. But building out a section on your website that could be areas we serve. So this is similar to location pages, but more speaking to just where you service companies. So we have a client who is in the residential security business, and they have about 27 locations, mostly on the eastern part of the United States, but they also serve in other areas. So, our experience is to go ahead and build out a few pages. They don't have to be every single area that you serve, but maybe you have a few states that you have a strong concentration of businesses, and I think that allows building out pages in that specific area would be a smart choice. So maybe this is, instead of if you serve people in the Baltimore area, for example, you do have a section on your website that speaks to your services in that particular area. So I don't know if that answers the question directly, but that would be our recommendation, is to build out an areas we serve page on your website.
That's great. I think that answers the question well. How do search engines, there's another question, how do search engines view location pages as a subdomain versus those in a directory? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So
okay.
The way that we view subdomains is essentially a subdomain is an actual brand new domain name. When you refer to your top-level domain name, so if we are linkmedia360.com, that domain name naturally will probably have the more authority than any subdomain we create. So if we have a subdomain location1.linkmedia360.com, that subdomain is going to get some of the authority from the top-level domain name, but not all of it. So we encourage to have all of our location pages built out in a directory. That way we can take advantage of all the authority that linkmedia360.com has. I think that just having location pages is step one, even if they are on a subdomain. So I don't think if you've made a recent large investment into building your location pages on a subdomain, I don't think there's any reason to run back and make a switch. But if at all possible, we do highly encourage including them in a directory rather than a subdomain.
Great stuff. Let me go through the questions here. All right. Okay, what local SEO steps are needed to be listed in Google Maps searches? What different steps should someone take to be found specifically on mobile maps, for example?
Yeah, so I think that the first thing that you should do is Google Places for Business is a section where you can submit your business information or location information. So this would be going back to the NAP or the NAP that I referred to several times. Once you're in the Google Places for Business, you can verify your listing. There's a couple ways to verify your listing. If you just have a couple locations, one of the easiest ways is just through a postcard. Google will send a postcard to each of your locations with a PIN number on it. Once you have that PIN number, you can verify that listing. A verified listing is more credible in Google's eyes because they know that there is a business that is actively managing that listing, so you're more likely to appear in search engines. And in order for Google to list the correct information, they do need to be verified. They also have a phone call option that is nice because you don't have to wait on that postcard. So the biggest takeaway here is Google Places for Business. Make sure that your business information is submitted and verified. The other thing you can do is managing your online local listings. Again, that's something that, not to give out a Link Media 360 plug, but that is something that we actively manage for hundreds of clients. But like I said, Moz Local just introduced a solution yesterday that you can syndicate your name, address, phone number to the hundreds of directories like Google Local or the Google Maps.
And if I'm not mistaken, too, isn't that sort of what Yext does as well? Don't they ensure that allow you to post in various listings at the same time as well? Am I right in their business model, if you're familiar with them at all?
Yeah, you absolutely are right. We do use Yext as well under some circumstances. The nice thing about Yext is it is a more premium paid service, but they directly tie through API to several of these directories. So if you update your name, address, phone number, you can usually see that updated on one of their websites they're directly tied to within just a couple days or a week or so. When you're syndicating to other directories, it's more of a long-term process. You know, you're looking at probably a month, 2 months, 3 months until that information actually gets syndicated to the website and live.
Good stuff. Let me go through the questions here, see what else we're lacking. Okay, do small businesses that have 5 or less locations need optimized location pages, or could you just do, you know, here's a list of our locations on one page? How should you deal with that if you don't have enough maybe to justify having separate location pages?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, if you have 5 locations, I personally would highly recommend going ahead and building out those pages. The nice thing about having only 5 location pages is the fact that you do only have to create 5 more pages. Usually what we run into is if we have a company that we're working with that has over 200 locations, when you have such a vast amount of locations, it's a lot of work. Not to say that building out 5 pages wouldn't either, but I think if you have 5 locations, we highly encourage you to build out those location pages that have specific information. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with just having an overview page with the locations you have, with the name, address, phone number of each location. You can still add schema markup to that page, but you know, we would encourage you to go ahead and build out an individual location page.
Good stuff. What other tips would you give us before we close here, Chad? It seems like the focus, and I think your focus on content was appropriate. I would totally agree with what you're saying in terms of how to think about content. Like sometimes people get caught up in, what do I write about? Well, like you said, I mean, if your customers have a specific question a lot, or maybe they misunderstand something or have a misconception about your business. Any other tips, I guess, on content marketing before we close?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing about content marketing is it is a very kind of shiny word right now. It's been talked about a lot. It's a buzzword. I think content marketing has been around for a very long time. I think that the most important thing about content is just to make sure you have a strategy. A lot of companies will create and put a lot of time into a blog post or an infographic, for example. They'll post it to their website. They might sprinkle it on a few social networks, and then they'll forget about it. The issue is it's a really competitive space. There's hundreds of companies just like yours that are producing content as well. So you really need to have a strategy behind promoting it. I encourage everyone to you know, set aside a media budget for your own content. That media budget isn't going to be a ROI-driven event, but it does allow you to get your content out in front of people sooner. The chances of creating that, you know, one funny YouTube video that goes viral organically is very rare. So we encourage any company who is investing resources into creating content to also set aside a small media budget where they can use services like promoted posts on Facebook or promoted tweets on Twitter. They can use content marketing promotion companies like Outbrain or Zamanta. I think that if you're taking the time to create this content, to make sure you have a strategy to promote it as well.
Totally agree with what you're saying. The other thing I would add too is we've seen with the content marketing, the only thing that really moves the content marketing needle in our experience is you have to do something to sort of change the status quo, if you will. So if you're writing once a week, ramp that up dramatically. That's the only way Google will take notice over time, is if you really start to produce high-quality content at a relatively high volume that does get shares and does get traffic. And I think priming the pump, as Chad suggests, is useful. One last question, then we'll be done. Glenn asks, can the descriptions that are submitted to directories be exactly the same, or does Google see exactly worded descriptions repeated again and again as spam?
No, they can be the same. From a directory standpoint, Google treats those web pages different. The biggest benefit about managing your listings is having that consistency. So when we talk about duplicate content, it's a little different than when we're talking about business listings or local listings. It's actually a really strong positive indicator if Google's able to crawl, hundreds of local business directories that have all the exact same name, address, phone number for a specific location, and that same name, address, phone number is on your website. That's a really strong that's a really strong ranking indicator. So we actually encourage you to go ahead and use the same description if that is what's super relevant to your business. Now, I don't think that if that one description is super long and it is spammy, it has a lot of keywords, you may want to look into talking specific to each location. But I wouldn't worry about it too much as it relates to a local listing.
Great. And then we have people that are asking good questions about using call tracking in relation to some of these things. I would refer you actually. So we wrote we partnered with some local SEO experts a few months ago and wrote I think it's 35-page white paper on using call tracking numbers effectively and ways not to use them so they don't damage your NAP. So I'd refer you to that white paper. I'll send that out in the email tomorrow that we send out this recording in as well, so you'll have access to that research. Because there are ways that are correct to use call tracking numbers and ways that are incorrect, and it's important that we understand the correct ways and the incorrect ways. So, Chad, anything to add on any subject we've covered today before we conclude, sir?
I don't think so. I think, again, the only thing that I would really encourage local businesses to start thinking about is, again, if you don't have schema markup, I think it's extremely important. If a search engine is asking for it, I would assume that it probably is going to help you in some way. Make sure that you are managing your local listings. I think it's relatively cheap, and it definitely does correlate well to local rankings. And then last is just, again, making sure that you are thinking mobile. I think mobile is going to be extremely important from a local standpoint. It already is.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Chad, thanks for taking the time, sir. We appreciate it. That was very well done. Good content. And everybody, thanks for participating today. Thanks for tweeting out the hashtag LogMyCalls webinar. This is a reminder that we have another webinar tomorrow specifically about our internationally award-winning conversation analytics tool. And then next week we have a webinar on influencer relations. So this is a way to get people talking about you, your business, regardless of whether or not you're large or small or what industry you're in. You want people talking about your company, and that webinar will address specifically how to do that. So logmycalls.com/webinar. Check out linkmedia360.com as well. Watch for the email from us tomorrow that has the recording and that white paper I mentioned. And have a great day, everybody. Thanks again, and Chad, thank you again, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.